back with She the People. I'm here by myself. And with JD though, who is a friend from Seattle, but now is in Iowa. And that's where you're from, right? Iowa. Yeah.
Born and raised.
And yeah, born and raised. And you ran for
Congress in 2018 and in 2020, and then ran for State House in 2022 unopposed, which if anybody runs for office, I highly recommend you run unopposed. It's way easier. And then I had an opponent and won re-election. So currently I'm the or the last 3 years, I was the only Democrat in 42 counties in Northwest Iowa down at the Capitol. We won a special election Senate seat. Shout out to Senator Caitlin Dray. She is my senator. She's pretty awesome. You guys should connect sometime, have her on. And yeah, so now there's 2 of us in 42 counties in Northwest Iowa.
Wow. So she just won state senate?
Yep, state senate. So that was in September.
You have some people that are running for
U.S. Senate. Yep. Congress, U.S. Senate, governor. We have, it's a big year for Iowa in politics in 2026. Excuse me. I tell folks, especially folks who are not from Iowa, that geographically we are between Wisconsin and South Dakota and Nebraska. And politically we're about there too, where Wisconsin is a purple state. That's what we used to be. We went for Obama twice, and now it's 3 straight times of Trump. And so like 2026 is really trying to figure out if we're going to go back to being a purple state or if we move more red to a Nebraska or a South Dakota.
See, this would have been really interesting if I could have had Andy here, because we talked about red state. We've watched Idaho get way more red, right? I was born in northern Idaho. I've been visiting northern Idaho my whole life, and you can just feel it too. I mean, without the politics, just being there in general.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, similar here in Western Iowa. It's not easy to be a Democrat in Western Iowa or just in Iowa these days. And then I think that's one of the things that made me a really good candidate right away is that I didn't have the luxury of just talking to Democrats. I had to bring people into the coalition. And that's one thing that I don't think our party does good enough now. And that's a lot of stuff I do on the national level is talking about like my successes. And I don't have all the answers, but I'll just have my track record show that in 2018 in a district Trump won by 27, we lost by 3 points. And I've overperformed in every single race I've been in. And a huge part of that is welcoming people into our coalition.
Yeah. It's been awesome to watch you go and do that, and definitely inspiring.
It's been a journey, especially since we've met to where I'm at today. It's been an interesting journey. I'll say that.
I'll say the first time I met you, you had hid Smirnoff ice all over your house. Now, this is a game that we would play, Shahida and me and the other girls. But that was, I just remember you being like, do you need a glass of water? And I was so just literally walked in the door. And this is like the first thing was like, do you need a refreshment? And then you're like, go ahead, reach up. The glasses are in there. I was so confused to open the cupboard door.
So subtle.
Yeah. I was like, something's happening here.
Yeah.
Just before, I want to talk to you about all of that stuff that you have done and been able to accomplish, but can we just really quick, also the thing you were saying about all the things going on in this country, but can we just really quick talk about the Epstein files?
Yeah. I mean, it's nuts.
It's insane.
I mean, our U.S. president on Friday, it was through those files, was accused of rape, molestation, and potential murder.
Yeah.
And it's Sunday. And just a few days later, and like, what do? It's so much corruption happening right now, and so frustrating is because a lot of the people who are on the oversight committee, in order to run for re-election, you don't want to piss Trump off, and so they're not willing to do any of this stuff, and it's mind-blowing. And the names that are there, and I mean, heck, Sammy Sosa is in
Jay-Z.
and all that. It's It's interesting to see because, like, I think it's really putting a spotlight on how small I mean, you can call them elites or whatever you want, like the
Mhm.
extreme wealthy people are in this country and how
And this
much
world.
yeah. So, and that's so in my vision of politics, one of the things more than being a Democrat, I'm very anti monopoly. And that's part of the point is like the Epstein files show
Right.
that because there's just a concentration of so much wealth just with a small group, they can be manipulated so easily, or maybe you don't want to call it manipulation, but I'm just saying like the potential for that is so easy, far more easy than it is from a decentralized entity. And so like,
Right.
to me, that's why I'm so passionate about a lot of those issues. And the Epstein files are the perfect case to show like just get a handful of horrible rich people, and that shows how awry we can become.
And I mean, just as a woman too,
Oh my God.
when I was younger, I watched a documentary on Epstein. I couldn't believe I mean, I
Really?
watched Yeah. I've known about him for a long time,
Huh.
and I watched a documentary. I mean, when you're someone that has been assaulted by men and, like,
Yeah.
frequently and have been put in dangerous situations by men, you get curious. This is why women love true crime stuff. Like, it's knowledge for us. It's not like, "Oh, the story is great." No, it's information to protect ourselves, essentially. So,
Yeah.
I, watched a documentary on young women that were getting murdered in Mexico in mass graves and having horrible
Wow.
things done. I mean, just all these things that I was like, "Oh my god, like, how is this not a bigger deal?" But now all this stuff that is coming out to me, of course there's elitist, wealthy men that do these things to women. They've been doing it to us forever, and just it's like, just believe us. Just believe
Right.
us when we tell you. I am in rooms with men that respect me, that know me, that I've been told I've been assaulted a lot, and the blank look on their face as if they don't
Right.
believe you. And then men say, "Well, why don't women report? Because 'Cause we're not believed, and then we're belittled, and we're made to feel
Right.
like crap." And it doesn't feel good, and it's not something that you wanna constantly talk about. So
Yeah.
that all this is coming out. Yeah, I watched, like, a documentary on him. I read articles about him too when I was much younger, and then I watched a documentary on him. I think it was 2012. I was, "How is this
Wow.
guy still around?" Where a young girl had broken out of his house and ran down the street and was picked up by police, and they literally just brought her back.
Oh my God.
I've known about him, and this is my thing too, is all these people that are in the Epstein files, even if they say, "Well, I didn't do anything," or "I wasn't with the" you knew who he was at that point.
I mean,
A lot of these emails are from 2017,
yep.
2018, 2012. He had already been prosecuted, and
Yep.
you knew who he was. His circles knew who he was.
And the thing that I think doesn't get enough attention, I mean, there's so many parts of this that are just awful, but these files hide the names of all these men, and then they give out the names of the women.
On
Like
purpose.
that is
I know it's on purpose.
it is
This is why
disgusting.
women don't report. I have a background in science, but how many times do people get wrongfully accused? This is a
Right.
meta-analysis, right? A top-notch study that was done in Australia collecting evidence from all over the world. 5% women wrongfully accuse men and lie.
Wow. Wow.
That is so small. So you think of that when people, "Oh, I need all the information." No, do you? Yeah, let's protect victims and women and not the men that are doing these crimes. It's terrible that this happened to all these women and horrifying that it went on for so long. And the names that are in it, I did see a lot of Mossad, Israeli connections.
Yeah.
This is a lot of Israeli connections, and I was just listening to Diary of a CEO. Have you heard of that? It's a
Mm-mm.
podcast. It's pretty popular. He was interviewing a former CIA agent who said that absolutely, absolutely Epstein was Mossad and being run by
Wow.
Israel.
Yeah. It just it's jaw dropping. And I think one of the other parts of it too is we still haven't seen even half of the files yet.
And of course, they gave us the ones that aren't the worst.
Right. Right. And so it's interesting to see. One thing that we're starting to see on the right wing stuff are throwing out, like, they're leaking like every Democrat who who can possibly be in there. But I mean,
Good.
and that's the thing. Like, they're trying to do this aha, or like, yeah, prosecute everybody. Like, is disgusting what has happened. And we need to, how do we move on as a country knowing this? It's disgusting.
It's also interesting. There's a lot of stuff actually about pizza, and there's a lot of stuff you can see there's a lot of connections to 4chan and to, there's just a lot of emails that are going back and forth. So all the stuff that they created about Pizzagate and the
Gate.
Democrats is like real, but it was them.
That's the
Like QAnon, all this
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I can't. And then Todd Blanchett, is that the guy, the
Yeah,
department
I
head?
don't know his role. Yeah.
He came on, he just keeps saying, "We're not sure if there's enough in there to prosecute anyone."
It's, I don't like, it's one of those things that it's jaw dropping. There's going to be more. And just as somebody who, what do we do with this? You know,
Yeah,
I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not like an attorney or anything like that. So I don't know how to comprehend all of this all the time. And it's just, it's so much information. It's going to continue to get out there more and more. And it's just, I don't know, an absolute just disgrace and stain on this country. And like,
yeah,
to me, like, I feel like, how do we get out of Trumpism and what's happening right now? Like, there is a movement waiting to happen in the Midwest, an economic populist movement. And I mean, that's part of the reason why so many people voted for Trump. They thought it was something different and break
right.
the system type of thing. And to me, if Democrats really want to capitalize on this, that's the vision, have an inclusive economic populist vision for this country, to show, like, not only are corporations screwing you, there's an inside job here and all this stuff, and they're the worst of the worst people. And we have to go in a different direction. So,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have really convinced people that it's immigrants and it's
yeah,
people of color, and it's not.
it's very interesting to see what's happening in Minneapolis on so many levels. But you look at, and they're targeting, it's very clear, and they're out open with this, they're targeting blue cities in order to show vengeance on them. And one of the things that I see that's happening is you see how strong a communities there are. Minneapolis, I've lived almost a decade up there in my life. It is, and my sister's up there, my parents are up there, my aunt, I have two aunts up there and an uncle, all originally from Iowa, who have moved up there. And it's interesting that the one thing that this is doing is it's organizing them. I mean, it's there's going to be a tremendous amount of backlash. Before, you wouldn't have this type of engagement politically, and they are not only fighting what's happening right now, they are all geared towards 2026 in November. It's really interesting for me to see it from that type of lens, from an electoral lens of how these communities are coming together, and these neighborhoods and everything. It's just, it's pretty inspiring.
It's really inspiring for the rest of the country for sure.
Like, a lot of the areas that it's impacting right now, those are going to be Democratic seats no matter what.
Yeah.
But what it's doing now is getting more people engaged and having a stronger turnout for them. So it'll help statewide candidates. It'll help focus on other areas that are tougher. It's getting people motivated to reject all this in a way that I don't think they were anticipating. And it's pretty cool to see.
Do you think it's getting, I know I'm more motivated than I've ever been. Obviously, like, I've
Yeah.
always voted. I've been protesting since I was in my early 20s against Iraq and whatever, but I am way more paying attention, way more motivated. I just went to my little local protest. I live in a really small town yesterday. It's 85, 90% over 65.
Yeah.
These are my people. But there were
For
so
sure.
many more honks and more engagement with the community because I've been out there a few times. Like, there was a lot more engagement with just the people driving by, the people walking by. I think that in itself is really important.
And that's one thing that, especially living here, We have so last fall, right before the election, I was asked to speak at, or I guess not last fall, a year and a half ago, or a year and some ago, right before the election, the 2024 election. I was asked to speak to a book club that my buddy's wife was kind of orchestrating here in Sioux City. And it was mostly what I thought was just going to be like a group of 5 women turned into kind of an underground Democratic club here who are a lot of women who either work at nonprofits so they can't be vocal or own businesses. And it's been really inspiring to see them like where they're like, what do we do? Where on the one side they can't be super vocal for retaliation or whatever of their jobs, but at the same time they want to do stuff. And so there is this underground movement that I think is happening. It's happening here for sure. And if it's happening in Sioux City, Iowa, it's probably happening in a lot of different places. And it is eye-opening to see and inspiring to see a lot of this stuff just kind of happen organically.
Yeah. I just keep saying, keep your foot on the gas. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
has to keep doing it.
the thing that I worry about is burnout. I
Mhm.
think we're going to be fine for 2026. Like right after the election, I think there was a burnout and oh my goodness, 4 more years. What are we going to do? And all this stuff. And I get that. And so I mean, it gets back to even like this weekend, just the news this weekend alone is so
Yes,
exhausting. And so I tell folks all the time, it's okay not max out, max out
totally.
every single day on some of this stuff because it's so disturbing and frustrating. But at the end of the day, we have to be there in November.
Well, and I think action makes you feel better. So
Yeah,
if I'm just taking in information, yeah, I'm just like, no, this is like making me feel sick inside. But once I get outside, I have a lady that I see live in mostly like it's kind of a retirement area, but I feel very safe here. So I love it. But I saw her walking my dog and is like, "Oh, are you gonna go protest today?" And we ended up meeting and going together, and it was we
oh,
just had a blast. We like all the other little
yeah,
ladies, I've been meeting them slowly and talking to them about other projects that I have going on, and it really makes you feel like you're doing something, and it makes fills my tank up,
absolutely.
and we were walking home together, and she said, "I'm so glad that you encouraged me to come out here because I feel better for doing it."
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the other things. I think one thing that is troubling right now is there's so much going on nationally. And it used to be that the Tip O'Neill quote is all politics is local, but like now all politics is national. I've seen so many local races where there's just amazing humans running. And just because they have a D by their name, they don't want that person. And this is like
Yeah,
generational, like third generation, just decent farmer, like just salt of the earth people that have lost elections just because of their party affiliation, which is really problematic. But I tell folks all the time, focus on what you can do locally. We can't get rid of Trump just overnight. I know we want to. I know we can push our leaders to just continue to fight, but what can you do locally? Going to a community event like that and protests and different things like that, all of it adds up. And
yeah,
so anything you can do, I constantly tell folks like the electoral outcome and the energy, if we can harness that into electoral process, that's where we're going to have success and where we will want more. And so much right now, it's, hey, I don't care what type of Democrat you are. We need you to, or not a Democrat. We need you to vote for a Democrat. And then afterwards, let's have that argument of what we should be doing.
yeah. I see a lot of people we have new seats here in California, and I actually was considering maybe I should run, I don't know. I'm really loud, though. I'm very opinionated,
Yeah.
and I'm atheist. I'm not Christian, but I was looking just at who's running, and there's a lot of people running and a lot of
Yeah.
good people. And because we have a couple seats up here where I am in Northern Cal that have opened up, and I've met one of them. And then Emily's List, they're supporting one of the women that are running up here. And
Are they
yeah,
running
so
for state office or
for
Congress?
Congress.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, and I see just a lot of younger people getting involved in running. So you were kind of in the early side of that. What made you want to move back to Iowa and run for office?
So in 2016, I mean, that election was a gut punch to me and an eye opener. I was still living in Seattle at the time, and then after the election, I just felt I needed to do more, but I didn't know what that meant. And my grandma is my biggest inspiration in my life, and she wasn't doing that well. And so at Thanksgiving, I got to spend, I think, 8 straight days with her. And the first day, she's, JD, you need to move back here, work at this retirement home, and take care of me. I'm like, Grandma, I don't have a degree in healthcare. They're not going to hire me. And she's, oh, you're probably right. And every day she had something different. But by day 6, I was feeling pretty inadequate because I couldn't do any of these things. And then the last day before I had to fly back, she said something that was pretty impactful to me. And she's like, you need to move back to Iowa and you need to take care of our farm. And I was the last person to get her to eat. And so she passed away about a month later. Her funeral was a month later after that. And I gave the eulogy, hardest thing I ever done in my life. And a month later, back in Seattle, I went to the Women's March. And I was just so lost at that time, just again, wanting to do more, but not knowing what that meant. I didn't know like if the guys were allowed to go to the Women's March. I had no idea. And
100%, yes.
and so I was so inspired by just the raw power and energy. For some reason, I went home and I was like, okay, what would it look like to move back home? If I move back home, what would I do? What type of job? Could I run for office? All these things. I did all this and I was like, you know what? I'm moving back home. And that snowballed into running for Congress against one of the most controversial members of Congress there's been in the past few decades, a guy named Steve King, who was in the era of Trump. He was kicked off his committee assignments for being too racist. So, I mean, that's something. And so we just started this grassroots campaign that, I mean, we started very humbly. And I bought it. My one goal was to buy a used Winnebago RV because they were made in the district, threw my logo on the side and just went nonstop. And we took a district Trump won by 27 and we worked our tails off, held town halls in every single county multiple times and just created this grassroots movement that was pretty just awesome and organic. And we nearly pulled off one of the biggest upsets in the entire country that year. And it was one of the, like, in these very polarizing times, to move the needle 24 points is unheard of. And we're just very proud of that campaign.
Well, I think you inspired a lot of other people too in your
Oh,
area, especially.
yeah.
There's more people running now that saw what you did. And I mean, I think you were just one of the first as far as I could see.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I'm nothing special. I was willing to work hard, and I think baseball taught
I'm
me a
gonna
lot
say
of
that,
work
like,
ethic.
knowing you, that's not true. You are unique. You are a very kind human being
Yeah,
that
yeah, but it's one of the but like I didn't come from money,
in that
like
sense, you're a working class American, but you
right.
are a unique human being.
Well, thank you. It's one of those, just like what I just tried to show, you could do something different. And the system, like a lot of people, especially for federal office, if you run for state office or lower, the state level in most states, it's pretty much door knocking and raise enough money to get your name out there are like the two things that you need. And that you don't need the millions and millions of dollars. Like in California, I think some of those offices, you need a lot of money, but in most states, if you raise 30 grand and door knock everywhere multiple times and you're in your community, you can win races here. It's not hard. And so that's the thing that I like. But like at the federal level, if you are on, so much of it is, are you an incumbent or are you not? So if you're not an incumbent, then is your seat winnable? And it's people out in DC who determine that. And that was the thing, like in a Trump plus 27 district, nobody thought I had a chance in hell. And for huge part of it, that's what made us have a chance. And so like a lot of these races, they tell you, okay, you can't be to this or to that. And it's just boring ass campaign commercials
Yeah.
talking about things that they poll test. And there's just no heart in a lot of this stuff. And that's the part that really gets to me because the reason ran, I mean, it's a combination of something meaningful my grandma did, but I wear my politics on my sleeve. And within a few minutes of going to a town hall, you know exactly what I stand for. But it's not, I don't do it in a way that it's like, if you're not with me, you're against me or anything. It's what else can we welcome into our
Right.
coalition? And that's the thing where you talk about my kindness, which I thank you, but that's part of it is I don't say it in a way that just in your face and just turns
I'm
people off.
right.
I do it in a way,
My way is how it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Back in 2018, one of the most progressive things you could do is run on Medicare for all. And I'm running in one of the most conservative parts of the country, and I'm running on Medicare for all. And I was on Chris Hayes' show in the last week, and he mentioned, he goes, well, you can't run on Medicare for all. I'm like, I am running on Medicare for all. And here's the reason why. Because farmers, we're very agricultural heavy here. And my district's full of farmers and small business owners, and neither one of them have employer health insurance. So,
I'm for Medicare for all because I'm a nurse and
right.
it makes sense. The only people that don't want Medicare for all are people that are profiting hugely off of it. And then it's like,
Right.
how do you convince
Right.
the general public or the working class that it's actually a really good thing that will benefit them?
It's mind-blowing to me, and then I hear the talking points of like, "Oh, I don't like Canada's long lines." I can't get into a dermatologist for 6 months here, and it's like just
It's also not a lot of it just is not true. I
well,
mean, it's
here's
propaganda too.
right. And here's what I lead with is that every single community in Iowa has a GoFundMe, a pancake breakfast, or a box for donations to help pay for somebody's medical costs, and we're the wealthiest country in the nation.
Right.
Or in the nation, in the world.
In the world. And it's
We're not
just too, we already pay, I mean, I get into this all the time, but we per capita, we already pay more
right,
than every other country, and all of our health outcomes are worse than
yeah,
every other developed country. And so what does that say? That just says that people are profiting off of the health of Americans, and in a lot of ways, they want us to stay sick because they're profiting off of it. And
right,
like, if they weren't profiting off of it, we would be investing in things like public health, and we would be investing more in open spaces and community centers, because these are actually all the ways that you keep people healthy. It's not when they finally end up in the hospital and now you're throwing all these medications at them. And we'd
right,
have, I mean, one of my biggest things is just a continuity of care. We're like, hey, you had a you ended up in the ICU, then you got transferred to med surge, and you've been in the hospital for a month. You just went to rehab. Good luck. See you later. And
yep,
where did they end up? Back in the emergency department because nobody followed up with them.
yeah. And here in Iowa, so much you look at like nursing home care, and they're being bought by out of state private entity like these
And
private equity that then they don't care about care.
uh-uh.
They care about money. And you have people who have spent their whole lives in these communities have to move an hour away because that's the next closest one that's willing to accept them. It just goes against community focused
Totally.
living. To me, like that was the beauty of growing up in Iowa is it's about the community and improving our lives. And that's to me where we're really missing out. You have this nostalgia politics on the right, and
Mhm.
I just feel like on the left we're not matching that, but that's a whole nother thing.
I think to match it personally would be more inclusivity and acceptance of everyone and
What?
things that actually work for the working class. I mean, I don't know if I sent it to you, but I started something that I call Silver Patriots.
Yeah, I started following it on Instagram. Yeah.
I just made that Instagram
Oh, that's
page though,
awesome.
but I made a YouTube channel too. I'll send it to you.
Sweet.
But
Yeah, please
what
do.
it essentially is it's actually, I need more people to sign up for it. It's like I email people videos that I make so that they can post them on their own social media accounts.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
cool.
trying to get as many people as I can to, and they're kind of Americana because I served in the military and I've served this country in a lot of other ways. And I want to take back I'm a patriot. I'm like, I am a patriot.
Hmm.
and the flag and the colors. And so I'll send you some of the videos, but essentially that's it. I'm trying to expand it. I'm trying to get, and it is Silver Patriots because those are the people that I see out there protesting. Those are the people that I see out there that are really outspoken about what's going on. As a nurse, they're the ones that I hear all the time talking about this is terrible. And so I just wanted to start something to try to give them a voice too, but it's for everybody. But essentially, the
Love it.
messages are
It's,
really,
I mean, that's fantastic.
yeah, they're really clear and simple because that's another thing I think that Democrats do. I think we talk over people's heads a lot and in ways that make them
Yeah.
feel dumb. And there's just no reason to talk like that. There's no reason, just talk to people for real. Don't skirt around and use big words to circumvent what you're actually trying to say. And I think that we lose so many people in doing that.
Oh, 100%. It's one of the eye-opening things about where I'm at in politics right now is the last 2 summers I got to play professional baseball again in my mid
Professional?
40s. Yeah. So it's a wild story. So the short version of it is on July 6th of 2024, I was volunteering at a music festival here that we have. This like where 25,000 people show up. It's in my district. It's one of the coolest parts about Sioux City. And I look at my phone, and I've been playing amateur baseball and for the past few years. Again, I hadn't touched a ball in 7 years once I moved back. So I told my old team, we have a pro team here, that if you need somebody, let me know. I'm throwing really well, and I feel like I'm throwing the best I have in my life. And they gave up a combined 34 runs the 2 nights previous. They used a ton of pitchers, and then their starting pitcher that day had a neck thing, and so they called and they were desperate. And I mean, to ask a 44-year-old representative to pitch for them was pretty desperate. And so I ended up going 6 2/3, only gave up 2 runs. I got the win. And so in doing so, I became the oldest person in league history to get a win and the only elected official to play professional baseball at the same time. And so my jersey from that game is in the National Baseball Hall of Fame as a result. And so then I
That's
stayed with the team
amazing.
the rest of the year. I went 6-2 that year. I tied for the team lead in wins, and I joined the team halfway through the season. So yeah, so still got it a little bit.
That's amazing. What are you still playing?
I officially announced my retirement last in December. I tore my left bicep, my non-throwing bicep, in October in a baseball tournament down in Arizona. I just felt like with everything, I just kind of felt old. But the politics side of it is that I got to talk to these 20-year-old dudes who
Yeah.
don't really talk about politics and really understood, and it was an eye-opening thing, and it's something that I think more politicians could benefit from, just having normal conversations, because they don't see the day-to-day stuff. It's not a huge priority for them at this point in their lives, and just having these conversations just made me a better politician tremendously.
I think too a lot of politicians are lawyers too, and they don't have a history of interacting with everyday Americans, and I think that really shows, and that's why I think that we
For
need more teachers and nurses and people that actually, on a day-to-day basis, every day, we're working with everyday Americans. We are working with the working class, and I think that we understand them better.
by far, but the problem is that the system's not meant for that. So even so
Right.
at the state level here in Iowa, I leave, we start session, we're from early part of January all the way to about May, and Monday through Thursday I have to be down at the Capitol. And that's a 3-hour drive from Sioux City. And so like I'm not married or have kids, but at the same time for folks, so I have the flexibility to do that, but like people who do have a family, and especially a young family, it's not conducive to that. And so you tend to get either independently wealthy people or retired people, and the laws kind of reflect that. And so by far, we need more just average Americans running for office. And that's why you see people and you get inspired by them, because they're kind of going against the grain when it comes to like regular people running for offices. And it's disheartening to see like so much of that and like the money in politics. And if you don't have it, you're not a viable candidate, or you're not seemed or viewed as a viable candidate. And it's tough because not only do I come from an area that doesn't have a lot of Democrats, there's not a lot of like campaign contributions coming out of Western Iowa for Democrats.
How did you get your campaign going?
I mean, I had a very unique situation where a woman who ran the time before either launched or did like a pre-launch thing. She raised about $100,000 after Steve King had a tweet saying we can't restore a civilization with other people's babies, and it went viral and caught headlines. And so she raised money, and so she was going to run again, and that was fine. Like I was like, if she runs, I won't. That's fine. I can do other things. I just want to help out. And then it came out that she was an online psychic who defrauded some of her customers, and so
Just like people. Come on.
she had two staff members at that time, and they were looking to help somebody create a campaign, and it worked out. So they helped me get off the ground. But my first quarter was awful fundraising. I asked everybody I knew for $25, and then had to ask a lot of them for $5 more at the end of the quarter. It was the hardest $40,000 I've ever raised in my life. Now, to put things in perspective, when I ran the second time, that same quarter in less time, I raised $420,000.
You think because people knew your name?
Yeah, and I already proved myself, and so like 10 times we raised amounts. But when we got going, I remember going to Thanksgiving. I was so exhausted and everything. And I just told my family, I'm going to a friend's Thanksgiving down in Kansas City. I just need to forget about stuff for a little bit. And so on the way back, I was worried. All right, I have a comms person and I have a finance person. Neither one of them, we're not bringing in much money. So I have to figure out, do I keep one? Do I get rid of the other? And what do I do? And when I got home, I got my first max donation, and it was both the husband and wife maxed out. And that allowed me to get payroll for another time. And then we started finding our groove. And by the end, got more connections, more networking. And that allowed us, we ended up outraising King 2-1. In Q2 or Q4 of 2017, and that's by outraising him 2-1, we started getting national attention, and then we had a really good Q1, and then Mark Hamill had a tweet that called me JD the Jedi. Like King, I think, had another racist tweet, and like just started getting a lot more attention on us, and just success breeds success. And it was crazy because the last week of the campaign, there was a poll that showed we were within one, like a third party poll, and that's when all hell broke loose. And we were front page of the New York Times, Washington Post. I was in Rolling Stone, on CNN, MSNBC several times that week, Morning Joe, like it was crazy. And Pod Save America, and yeah, and we ended up raising over $1 million that last week alone.
That must have felt weird.
It was surreal, but it was also all the hard. It was 15 months to build for those last 2 weeks, and it was 15 months of nobody believing in us. Even it was interesting. The people within the district, when I first started going out, people were like, "Oh, God bless you, somebody should run against him." And the second time we went around, it was, "Oh, you're just not anti-King, you're standing for something." And that third time,
and so you ran twice.
Yeah. So after that, we had so narrowly lost. We had a Senate race up that year, then the next year. And so a lot of people were pushing me to run for U.S. Senate then. King was running for re-election, and I didn't really want to run for Senate with knowing that King would just continue to be there. And I had meetings with Schumer when I was out in D.C., and ultimately I decided to run for re-election, or not re-election, the same seat again, and with way more help. And then that's when COVID hit. And then after COVID hit, King lost his primary, and it was a bad year for Democrats in the state. So overperformed. So that was the 2020 race that Biden won. We overperformed the top of the ticket by, I think, like 5 points or something in the district, which is really hard to do because the Senate race, like broke crazy amounts of fundraising records. So they took up all the airwaves. And so it was really hard, especially in a time of COVID, to get our message out. But we still overperformed, but
And
lost.
do you like what you're doing now, being in the state?
That's an interesting question. I love representing Sioux City. It's an honor to be down at the Capitol. In the now my fourth year, my second term, I've had a firsthand seat to the radicalization of the state of Iowa, and that's really, really hard. Republicans passed one of the strictest abortion bans in the country. They took out protections, civil rights protections on LGBTQ members, specifically trans people, which were the first state to retract in civil rights, which is something really hard in a state that we were one of the first states to legalize gay marriage. We were like the third state. We have a long history of progressive politics in the state. To see that, we allowed school vouchers, which we take public money to give to private Christian schools for the most part. We dismantled the AEA, which helps special education and teachers and different things like that, amongst other things. And so to sit down there, and my first year, we were 36 out of there's 100 representatives. We had 36 Democrats, and they just radicalized the state. And then they picked up 3 more seats. And so we're down to 33 now. And that's pretty heartbreaking.
What do
So
you happen?
I
I mean,
love,
why do you
yeah,
think people are like voting towards radicalization?
they don't. One is people get their news from Facebook more than they get their news from the news, more than they like the nightly news, the more than the local newspapers, and so what's on a lot of their Facebook feeds, it's right-wing propaganda. And
Yeah.
as all politics is national politics, just Trump being on the ticket appealed to folks, and most people just voted for Trump and down the line. And that's what we see every presidential year. So like in non-presidential years, Democrats have a chance to win back seats, but with Trump on the ballot, like he has helped Republicans, despite what they pass at the local level and the state level, rise up. And it's been very, very hard to deal with here.
Are there grumblings of
Yeah.
working class? Like, are they seeing terrible? I mean, you're a state of
I'm
farmers. I can't imagine.
right. And we've been targeted by China for the trade wars. We've lost the soybean market. But like at some point, you just gotta you feel like the dam's gonna break at some point, but when? And what's the line? And so I don't know, it's been extremely hard to process that and deal with that. But at the same time, you look at Sioux City, 4th largest city in the entire state. However, since 2018, my campaign, there has not been boots on the ground here in Sioux City to help do with turnout, to help with any of that. And the first time we did was in September for Caitlin Dre's special election, and she flipped a Senate seat and got a lot of national attention for doing that. And it's like, let's invest in some of these areas. If we were doing everything right and losing, that's one thing, but there's so much that I see here. And right now, you have the DCCC targeting 2 of the 4 congressional races, and definitely not in this area. So that's where all the money is going to be pumped into. And it's just, if we're going to win statewide, if we're going to, like, Iowa should be on the map for the U.S. Senate race. It blows my mind. Right now, the way things are structured, a lot of things have to go the right way in order for it to pull off the upset. It's doable in 2026. My friend Josh Turk is running right now, and I think he is a special candidate. But you hear about Maine, you hear about Georgia, you hear about Ohio, you hear about Texas, and now Alaska. Iowa's a winnable state. We went for Obama twice, then it flipped towards Trump. We could easily swing back, but there's not the investment by the party here. And that's the part that really frustrates me and is, okay, what are we doing here? Are we trying to have success? But we have this 50% plus one mentality rather than like, let's go in and invest in these communities. So it's, you see in all these polls of Trump having horrible numbers, but you also see they're not great for Democrats.
Right.
And it's like, what do we get out of it? We have to change. We have to figure out, and it's honestly a lot of our leadership needs to look in the mirror. And if you're not improving our numbers, then pass the baton.
What would it take for them to get invested, do you think, in Iowa?
I mean, their model is, can an individual fundraise on their own? And are there poll numbers that show it's winnable? And I mean, it's a entity that like is like self prophesizing, where in order to raise the money, in order to move the needle, you need to raise the money. But in order to raise the money, you have to show, like, it's what
Yeah,
came first, the chicken or the egg. So you have these people, James Tallarico down in Texas, where he built his brand
I'm a fan.
for a while, and yeah, and we don't have that in Iowa, and we're not getting the attention. So I don't know. It's hard, and the other part, there's a lot of other things that we need to do in order. There's not just like one switch, but there is so much potential in this state. I just wish outside entities would invest in this state. They used to. Josh Turek, he's
Correct.
a wheelchair Olympic basketball gold medalist. And just he's a pretty special person. He's from Council Bluffs, grew up in a low income family, and just he had 21 surgeries before the age of 12, and just special. Like he's the type of person you want in office to represent you.
'Cause I thought you were gonna run, but then you pulled out?
So I did run, and then once the one big beautiful, and Kim and I are friends, and so we were like, one of us has to run. And then once the one big beautiful bill passed, I was in the race because Joni Ernst is our senator who's up for reelection, decided not to run for reelection, but before she did a town hall where she said, when talking about the one big beautiful bill, and somebody commented, well, people are going to die. And she goes, well, we're all going to die. And so that's that weekend. I decided I was going to launch on that Monday. I was playing professional baseball at the time, so my world was really weird. And then once the one big beautiful bill passed, that's, I think, kind of the thing that pushed Josh over the edge of, I'm going to do this. And there's no better to talk about Medicaid cuts
Right.
than Josh. And so I was, you know what, I'll drop out, I'll endorse you, and here we are.
So what would he need, do you think, to get seen?
To get seen?
Yeah, like, to get more support or whatever he needs to.
I mean, we live in an attention, as much as you need to raise money, you need to raise attention and like grab attention. And so it's just, it's hard in this environment. We saw in our campaign a lot of the things like in 2018 and 2020, if you went on MSNBC or CNN, you'd raise like $5,000 pretty easily right after that from people watching it. We did that this past summer when I was running, and we'd get $800 maybe. And so it just, at that time, the attention and the energy wasn't there. And a lot of the bigger donors were skeptical after going all in on Biden and then on Harris and then losing. And so right now it's really weird for politics, and email lists aren't what they used to. They've been abused. And so it's a tough, the way I ran in 2018 and 2020 here in 2026 isn't working, or the way we
No.
raise money. And so things have changed. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard.
I think it's hard because the news cycle too right now.
Oh,
There's so many things. I know that's what everyone keeps saying. Oh my God, there's so many
yeah.
things. What do I, what for me, there's like a few things. I wish we could all be focused on climate change right now. I think it's
Yeah.
ridiculous that we're all having to be focused on this other thing instead of this existential crisis that is happening to the entire world.
So when we talk about turnout for elections, so as a candidate, there's two types of turnouts that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to convince people who are not Democrats to vote for me, so whether they're independent or even Republican. But I think the thing that we as Democrats don't do a good job is it's the people who are not going to vote to get them to vote.
Right.
And that's the part that we have to tell folks why it's important to have your voice. Even in the bluest of blue areas, we need you to go out and vote and have that engagement, because democracy is not a situation where you sit on the sidelines. You have to be
It's not a
inactive.
guarantee.
Right, right. And like, it is mind blowing to me. It's just in our lifetimes. I remember vividly my first presidential election was the 2000, and just the chaoticness of that. But we knew at the end of the day there was a court system. There wasn't going to be
Right.
civil war. We were going to have another election after that. Now there's no guarantee for anything right now.
No. There's a lot coming to light right now that I'm very surprised and shocked by. I'm not shocked by Epstein files at all. I just, because I know men and like that exist, but the orchestration behind it and the money movement and the people involved and the banks involved and all of these kind of things, that to me is shocking or surprising.
Well, the thing that really moved me to consider running, like I was not planning on running for US Senate this year. The thing that really, I mean, there was a couple things. One was when Joni Ernst said we all got to die, or we're all going to die. We all don't have to die so billionaires can have a bigger tax break.
Right.
That's my thing. But the Trump inauguration, where you had the 4 tech billionaires or the 5 tech billionaires in front row before ahead of the cabinet, to me, especially as an anti-monopolist, that was so just jaw dropping, just so on point of that, like just a handful, like, and they control Facebook, they control Instagram, they control Twitter, they control so much of what we have.
CBS,
Yes. And they're
Fox
buying
News.
more. Yeah. And they're buying Netflix. It's just crazy how like that, how much it's just a handful of people can
Yeah.
have that big an impact. And so that's why as an anti-monopolist, that is like to me, like you like I climate change and anti-monopoly there in order to create the change we need in this world, I think that's the direction we need to go.
If you say I'm an anti-monopolist, what do you think someone in Iowa, what wording would you use if you were trying to express that to a
Yeah.
constituent?
I think one of the best things is a quote from Judge Brandeis, who is kind of viewed as one of the godfathers of the movement, I would say. He said, we can have a democracy or we can have wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we cannot have both.
I saw that.
And the thing that, and a lot of people have, oh yeah, it's an esoteric, like monopoly and all that. We played the game, but like, what does that mean type of thing? The thing is, in farmers, most farmers understand what's happening right now because we only have a handful of corporations on the input side, so seed and fertilizer and all that stuff. And
Monsanto.
exactly. And then on the other side, we only have a couple where you could sell to the market, like
Mhm.
where you could sell your product. And so farmers are being very squeezed right now on both sides. And you have these meat packing plants that during COVID, they really put the spotlight on this, where farmers are getting squeezed, workers are working in dangerous situations and being suppressed, consumers paying the highest they ever have for meat. And then you have these corporations, these monopolies, all having record profits. It is clear
I
that
know.
like, and they're like in Lexington, Nebraska, Tyson announced they're closing a plant. 5% of US beef goes through that plant. And why are they doing it? Because they can import beef from South America. We're trying to outsource our food supplies, and that doesn't make us a secure nation. And you think of all the transportation and all that, that's not good for climate to ship all that. When we can grow things here, why are we
Right.
not growing things here? Why are we not subsidizing things that can grow here? We're this mass agriculture, but at the same time, we're not feeding ourselves. Iowa, you think of agriculture, 90% of the foods Iowans eat is imported. 90%. And a lot of it's from California.
I say from California.
Right. If you hear every Republican politician just shit on California,
Yep.
and I was just don't shit on where you get your food from.
And your money.
And yeah.
Is there anything final that
What's one thing that you would want to know? So I'm
about
putting
you
it back on you.
personally?
No. No. About like now, like as somebody, like you have an elected official here. Like what's
Yes.
something that you would want to know, like, because I think that's part of the struggle here in Iowa too, is a lot of people don't know how the system works, and not to their credit. I didn't. When I lived in Seattle, I didn't know who my state representative was. I wasn't as engaged in politics as I should have been. And there's this assumption that, oh yeah, it doesn't matter because like we're a blue city in a blue state, but no, it does matter. So I
I
don't know.
think
If you have a question, I didn't mean to put you on the
for
spot.
people, right. Oh, yeah, no. I think for people right now, I call my senators, my congress people, how much, and if you call your state representatives, how
Mhm.
much do you think that that impacts represent?
Yeah. So at the federal level, I think that's where they get the most. They just keep a chart of if you're for or against something. For the most part, this is my understanding of a lot of the offices there. And so you have some intern taking the calls and okay, this person's for this. And so if you have a million for something and two oppose, you should not be voting for that opposition, but you never know. It's a bigger impact locally. And I think that's one thing Democrats don't do a good job of is focus on your local races. Um, I mean, city council is very personal on a lot of this stuff, and it has more day to day impact than a lot of stuff that's happening federal for the most part. State offices, you should get to know. I challenge anybody if you go out and you're protesting, you're upset with what's happening nationally, get to know your local representatives at the state level. They're a tremendous source for different things. Let's say you're not getting your Medicaid bills on time or whatever. Federal, I guess that's not a good example because it's federal, but there's a lot of things like even though I'm in the minority here, Republicans own the trifecta down in Des Moines, the constituent services that I'm able to do just through connecting to our staff who has connections to agencies and things like that. That's the stuff that people don't see that I'm very, very proud of and why I love representing Sioux City. But I will say, get to know your state representative. It's impactful. Understand what they're doing. And if you don't like what they're doing, challenge them, run for office or get somebody to run against them. That level is so doable for change in this country. I just wish more people would be engaged with it.
And are they fairly easy to get? I mostly call,
You
you
should.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, my US senators. I did call my assembly person because we just had a bill so that you could sue ICE. If they're a Democrat or Republican and you know they're going to vote a certain way, you think it's still beneficial to still call them and say, "Yeah, I
Oh,
want
yeah.
you to vote this way," even though you know they're going to vote that way already.
I mean, most of the time, very rarely, I think, does calling your members or your elected officials actually impact how they're going to vote. But it allows you to one gives you a peace of mind, like you did something, not just nothing.
Mhm.
But it also it's an engagement in your democracy and accountability. So then you can go to them if you go to a town hall or because all these people should be doing some sort of town halls. And if they're not, call them out on it. And just having that level of engagement. I think it's healthy for our democracy to be engaged. Reach out to your elected officials. By all means, even if it doesn't impact how they're going to vote, it's a level of engagement that is needed in this country.
Have you seen people change their minds because of all their constituents?
Yeah, there's very divisive bills that's really hard to change, and it's the one that's most. But there's people all the time that I have a constituent who reached out to me. There's a Republican bill that, like, on an issue I didn't know much about. There's a lot of stuff like we can't know everything or know how to vote on everything perfectly. That's it. Just
I think,
here's
and
an
that's,
example.
I was gonna
Here-
say, I think that's a big thing, just talking about that it's mostly lawyers that kinda get into politics too, is
right.
that they don't know if they're voting on a bill that maybe is gonna affect healthcare or affect teachers or affect working class Americans. They don't necessarily know how it's gonna impact.
Right. And I will say one of the things that I did, I have a friend who's a bartender here, and he told me, hey, the state of Iowa has this law that if you mix two liquors together, you have to get rid of it in 48 hours. And a lot of people make batch uh, cocktails now. And so if you're doing a wedding or something, it's easy just to do pre-mixed stuff. And if you have leftovers, you have to dump it out. And he's like, can we change it to a week or something? And we ended up changing it last year to shelf life. And we have a new distillery coming here in Sioux City that we're very excited about. Beautiful building, restored an old building. They invested a lot into this. And owner told me like that's going to be huge impact on theirs. And so just little things like that. And it's just me talking to my bartending friend. And
Yeah.
That's the type of relationships you should have. If there is a weird rule that impacts your life, you have that connection or the ability to talk to somebody to make a difference.
Yeah,
There's a line did you see the movie Before Sunset with
probably.
Julie, is it Julie Depley and Ethan Hawke? It was in the
Mhm.
90s, and then they did a second one called that was Before Sunrise, and then the second one was Before Sunset, I think. And so it's them 10, 20 years later. I can't remember how far, but they're talking she wanted to change the world, and wanted to do all this stuff, and then she has this line in the movie where it's like, the kids just needed pencils, and I got them
Yeah,
pencils. And that's the changing of the world, that we think, oh, these huge bills or change universal health care, all this stuff. Sometimes a huge impact is just giving a child a pencil.
right.
And that, to me, do what you can in your community and just try to improve it.
I do think people are a lot more engaged, getting a lot more engaged. It's like, how
Mhm.
do we keep people engaged, you know? So, well, you're not playing baseball anymore. Visually retired.
Well, professional baseball. I might play amateur this summer. I have a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
in life.
And do you have another job as a state representative
Yeah.
or
So, yeah, we're only part-time in Iowa, and which is kind of a joke because it's full-time. It's not quite year-round. It's like I would say it's a 3/4 of year job. We get 25 grand a year, and we get other stuff too. So it's not lucrative by any means. So we have to have another job. I do consulting gig stuff on the side, and so I have a contract until June, and then I got to figure out something.
yeah. Well, I'm sure you have a lot of knowledge about how to start grassroots movements.
Yeah, it's weird because I got selected to be part of the Obama Foundation Leadership Program, and in doing so, we have a career coach that we're working with, and just kind of thinking about what jobs are out there compared to where I was like when we met. Like I was working as a paralegal, I think back then.
Mm.
So it's it's hard because it's like I have all this knowledge and experience, but it's hard to necessarily put it into a application. I don't know what type of jobs people would laugh at if they saw my resume on there, or ones they would get excited about. So it's weird.
Professional baseball.
Well, I know. I mean, my life is just completely random. So yeah, who knows? But
Campaign manager.
yeah, I mean, there's a side of me that always wants to be in politics, but then there's also a side of me that I've been in it for almost a decade now, and I put so much of my personal life and different things on hold.
Mhm.
I'm debating if it's healthy to continue to go on, or like personally, or if it's time to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm excited to see whatever you decide
thank you. Thank you.
by following you on Instagram and
Yeah.
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 I want you though to check out my YouTube page, so I'm gonna send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
All right. Thank you so much, JD.
Yeah.
It's been just really fun to see you and awesome to watch what you've done. I hate when people are like, "I'm really proud of you," but as a human being, I am because
Well, I mean, the level is so low because, like, I don't ice people anymore.
what? I feel like you should bring that back into your life.
I should bring it to the Capitol.
You should. Just don't be so obvious
Do
about what you're doing. That's the whole
you want
game
water?
of
Do you want
ice.
water?
Yeah.
Go in
Do you
that
want
cupboard
water?
right there.
Exactly. You're gonna have to get yourself a cup. When what? You're 6'3"?
Six, six,
Yeah,
six.
you picked, like, the highest cabinet. I'm like, "Okay."
I don't remember it, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's how it went. I was
Awesome.
suspicious. I went along with it, but I was very suspicious. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I should
awesome.
run here,
Awesome to
but
watch
thanks
you.
for reaching out. This is
Yeah, good
fun.
to talk to you.
Happy to connect
Yeah,
anytime
for
too.
sure.
All right. We'll see you.
Okay, cool. Okay. Bye, JD. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of She the People with JD Scholten, Iowa representative, professional baseball player, and all around good guy. Hope you enjoyed it. Please go give us a 5-star review, share with your friends, and remember to stay strong, stay grounded, and keep up the fight.